Today we're going to talk about Blackboard and how teachers can access the course and know how to introduce students to the Blackboard course layout. So first things first, the address for the Blackboard login is up here in the corner of my screen on the address bar. It is fueled.blackboard.com. If you, for some reason, you cannot find the site by typing that in, you can simply go to Google and type in Blackboard Fuel Ed, and you will find the login page. So I've already got my username and password entered into these fields. If you need to get that, you'll just need to contact the site administrator, and they can get you that. But I'm going to log in. And when you log in, you're going to come to a page that looks like this. It says peek in the upper left-hand corner. And the site's divided into two halves. We've got on the left half, looks like a slot for announcements. And those announcements will pop up as you enter them inside the actual courses. So this left-hand side of the page is not really that important right now. What you're going to really need to worry about is what's on the right side of the page. On the right side of the page, you'll see a list of all the courses that you have been given access to as instructors. So for example, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be working from a honors biology course. So I'm going to click on my honors biology course right now. And when the next page loads, you'll see this is the home page for my biology class in Blackboard. Okay. You'll see it's set up very much like any typical learning management system. We've got a bunch of options on the left-hand side of the screen, kind of a navigation center. We've got a space up top for announcements. That's basically how it's laid out. You'll see there right off the bat, there's a big black button near the top left side of the screen that says create announcement. And so when I click that, it takes me to a page where I can enter an announcement. Okay, and it's got options where I can name it and I can describe it. Down underneath the web announcement options, I can select date restrictions or email copies of these announcements, and I can even link to specific courses, link to specific locations within a course. Okay, so once you type in an announcement, you would go ahead and just move over to where it says submit, and then once you do that, your announcement should appear at the top of your course homepage. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the course homepage. So that announcement would appear up here where it says announcements in gray. I'm going to move down the options on the left navigation bar. At the top you'll see once again announcements, which we just went over. The next button down you'll see is staff information. When I click staff information, it basically allows me to enter contact information for myself that students can use to reach me. So you'll see that I have entered my email, my cell phone number, and just a reminder that students must text first before calling so that I can fulfill my other responsibilities that I'm taking care of at any given time. You can create an entry by clicking this button that says create contact. And so let's say that I had a TA or a co-teacher, I could create another contact and it would ask for very similar information as to what I've entered in here. So that is staff information. That's how students will be able to access how they can contact you. Going right on down, right below staff information is a button called Class Connect. So I'm going to click on that. In Class Connect, you can see it's got a whole bunch of what are called rooms. Okay, so let's go to one of these rooms. Okay, so a room, it's basically a communication tool for collaboration, and it's even got a recording tool, so you don't have to just type like a chat room. The Class Connect button is mainly used for just collaboration. Okay, so if you're really big into collaborating with your students, that's a great tool for you. And how that works is probably best served in another video. Let's go on down to the meat of what I wanted to talk about today, and that is the actual course content. Now, Blackboard Fuel Ed, it's got a bunch of preloaded content. So for example, at the very beginning of the content, there is an orientation. Now when I click on the orientation, it's going to list a few resources and files that I can click on. So it's got a syllabus that students can look at. Keep in mind, however, this is not a syllabus that displays grading information or academic policies. This syllabus basically just lists the topics that are going to be covered in this class by lessons. Okay, so when I click that, it's going to bring me to this page, and you can see, there we go, Unit 1, those are the lessons that we're going to cover. Unit 2, those are the lessons, and it goes all the way until the end of the semester. Okay, it's got a course description, prerequisite information, how long the course is supposed to take. So there's very general information. Let's go back to the orientation tab. You can see here they've got an online learning handbook. Now what this is, if students are very new to taking an online class, which many will be, this online learning handbook is basically a set of pages and instructions, strategies for how to succeed in an environment where you take online classes at your own pace. So they can do that if they're really struggling with how to keep track of their assignments, how to know if they're on pace. So more for the struggling learners, that's a good source for them to look at. Right below that we see a biology reference guide. Now depending on the class, some classes will require textbooks. Now this is a virtual class, which means the textbook is provided as part of the online course. So any textbooks that are required for your class will be located in this orientation tab. And when I look at this reference guide, it gives me an option to view it online. It also gives me the option to download it to a mobile device. Okay, so a very cool tool for allowing students to access their book from anywhere. I'm going to click on this book just to show you what it looks like. Now it's loading. You can see this biology reference guide. It reads just like a textbook. Here we have, down at the bottom is where we're going to navigate to the next page. So very much like as if they were reading a textbook right in front of them. There are other tools that you can use. There's this menu up here that will basically act like a table of contents. If a student is searching for a specific section of the book, they can go there. There's a go-to page button down here. If you want them to go to page 76, they can do that very quickly by clicking that button. There are search tools, bookmarks, resources, very, very basic textbook, so that's really good. Going back, so let's go back to our orientation tab. So next we have some grading information. Once again, this won't be very specific as to like what your categories as a teacher will be or what your percentages will be. But let's see what pops up when we download it. So this is the grading information, and you'll see it's just a one-page document. It just says this is a template for you. So in case you're making a grading information page, you can put your own tables in here, your own rubrics, and that way the students can know inside the course what they're going to be graded on and how much percent will come from which item. Okay, so feel free to edit that as you wish. Going back to the orientation. Sorry. So next we have what's called a schedule. And the schedule basically lists out a good pacing guide for when you should complete different sections of the course. So for example, during week 1, you should have completed all 5 of these items. And so for those students who really struggle with the pacing of an online class, this really provides a good feel for where they should be at any given time. Okay? Going back to orientation. Okay, so that is basically what's in the orientation section. Now, right below orientation in the navigation bar, you see where the units actually begin. So in Unit 1, the science of biology, If we click that, we see a brand new page full of many options. And you can see at the very top, we've got some general information. So the science of biology, that's just a one-page introduction to the course. There's a raise your hand tool, which is another forum, chat room type tool where students can ask questions about anything. Okay, and there's a raise your hand tool for every unit in the course. You can see down here below, they have a student resources button, which will basically tell students about things they will need to have on hand in order to prepare for lessons adequately, materials they will need, things like that. And then here we finally get to the actual lessons where students will begin. The first lesson is a neat little semester introduction where it's basically going to run through all the different things that students will be exposed to within the lessons. And it's actually set up in a lesson format. So you're watching the semester introduction as if you were watching an actual biology lesson. So just navigating through the slides, we've got materials we're going to need for this lesson. We've got objectives that we're going to accomplish. So you see it operates very much like a PowerPoint textbook kind of mixture. So students will access all the concepts that they'll be tested on through these little lesson slides. And you'll notice that as soon as you click on a slide, there might be some links that pop up. So right here, there's a semester introduction. And you can click on any link in a lesson and it'll bring up a separate window with like a definition, maybe a video. But here, in this case, this semester introduction kind of lays out the different activities that are part of each lesson. So you'll see here, the main thing is that this class is broken into sections of online activities, which include lessons, labs. There are also offline activities that the students can download and work on even without an internet connection. Okay. There's also a little blurb about graded assignments. Okay. Now some assignments will just be PDFs that students can do problem sets on. Some assignments will actually be online interactive assignments to be turned in virtually. So just make sure that the students know that they're expected to do both the lessons as well as some offline activities. Okay, and if for honors classes, they also have additional honors projects on top of their regular course load. Okay, so let's say we finished up with the lesson. We've done everything that's been embedded into the slides. Okay, once we reach slide 7 of 7 in this lesson, we know, okay, I'm done with the lesson, I can move on to the next one. So I would go back to Unit 1, and now I would go on to Lesson 2, which is Biology and Scientific Methods. And you'll see once I click that, here comes my next slideshow with concepts. Except this slideshow is a little bit lengthier, it's got 13 slides. So this is how students will run through the course. It's really just completing a lesson, doing any work associated with it, and that work will all be embedded into the lesson. Once that's done, we move on to the next lesson. So it's very much just like a regular brick and mortar classroom. Once you finish a day's material, the next day we're going to be learning something new. Basically the exact same setup. Going back to the unit, scrolling down further reveals a few quizzes and tests. Okay. Now students need to make sure that before a quiz, they know all the material from the lessons immediately preceding the quiz. And you'll see that quizzes are set up by lesson. So this says a 1.04 quiz, which immediately follows lesson 1.04 on scientific processes. So that quiz will cover material from the preceding lesson. Okay. Sometimes you'll see these folder icons, which when you click on a folder, it's going to take you to another page with an assignment inside of there. Okay, so you can break up assignments by putting them into subfolders if you so desire. And you can see down at the very bottom of the lesson we have a test. Okay, we see a Unit 1 test, Part 1, and a Unit 1 test, Part 2. This is the actual assessment with the little X and check mark on it. And when you click on the folder, you're going to see where students can submit Part 2 of their test. Okay. So So once they're done with the lessons, they can move on to the next lesson. Once they're done with the tests, they can move on to the next unit. So after everything is done in Unit 1, the students will scroll up and click on Unit 2, and they will start the process all over again. Now please emphasize to your students the importance of the schedule in the orientation. That schedule will keep them on pace so they will never be lost or behind. A couple other things I wanted to bring up. You'll see down here we have our honors project as separate units. We also have a discussion board, so let's click on that. You'll see the discussion board brings you to another forum. Okay, so collaboration is everything in online classes. If there's not some grade put towards collaboration, I would strongly encourage you to do so, because students should not have to work completely independently without any communication from you. Okay, so that discussion board is there for more chatting about certain things in the course. It's not real time, so you can log on from anywhere, anytime, and whoever is subscribed to that forum will be able to access your messages at any time. Down here we have some more communication tools. Let's click on that. When you click on communication, looks like this is a journal tool. Okay. Don't ask me why journals are found under communication, but here, let's say you're in a language arts class and you want your students to keep a journal. Here you can create that journal, and only the student and you as the instructor are able to add comments to the student's journal entries. Okay. And if you want to make those public, you can do that as well. Here we have an online support center if Blackboard's ever giving you any issues. After students complete a course, they can take the end of course survey, and then the My Grades button is where grades will be entered in when students complete lessons, quizzes, and tests. Now you as the teacher have the ultimate say in how your course will be graded and what letter grade the students will receive, but just be mindful that you put your grades into RenWeb, because that's what parents are going to log on to most to access the grades for their students. All right, that is basically the basics for how Blackboard is supposed to work. Now you can add more things to this pre-entered content. You see this little plus sign up here? When I highlight it, it allows me to add different pages. Okay, so if I want to add more than what is already in my Blackboard Fuel Ed course, this is how I would do it. Okay. So if you want to go above and beyond and have the students do something else, that's where you would do that. Okay. Let's go back to the main home page just to make sure we didn't miss anything. By the way, Blackboard, I've noticed, works the best in Firefox as a browser. Okay, and a lot of students bring up difficulties that they have when trying Blackboard in other browsers. So if they're in Internet Explorer, sometimes the audio for a certain thing might not play right, or sometimes a problem might not appear as it's supposed to. In that case, I always refer them to Firefox, and if then that doesn't work, there's a few other things that you can try to get them access to the materials they need. But if they're in Firefox, they should be able to access pretty much everything. Okay. The other thing I wanted to show you was your Peak page. Peak is kind of like your administrative site for seeing student information in your classes. So I'm logged into Peak right now, and the username and password for Blackboard and Peak are the same. But you can see a couple things up here. You can search for users. So let's say I want to search for a particular student in the class. Okay, so let's say I want to look up a student whose name is Mark. And you can see, let's say I click on the student I want, and you can see the email associated with their account so that you can reach out to them through email. Using this page, you can see what classes the student is enrolled in. So Peak is really just kind of more for the administrative side of things. And these little graphics right here will show you some statistics from your courses. When you go up, let's see if I can find it. When you click on your student enrollments, you can see who all is enrolled in classes. And you can actually sort this according to what class you are in charge of instructing. Okay. And up here we have some training materials if you're ever confused about what Peak is to be used for. So basically Peak is just viewing student information, scheduling, contact information, things like that. Okay, well that is an introduction to Blackboard and Peak. I hope that helps you get acquainted with how Blackboard's supposed to be used. Feel free just to explore this a little bit. A lot of it is self-explanatory. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you so much.